Okay, grade 8, we're now going to move on to rectangles. Remember, we're trying to find the area and perimeter of 2D shapes. So we're going to look at rectangles now. Now, the beauty about rectangles, it's also a side with right angles, but it's very similar to a square. Because a square is simply a form of a rectangle where the length equals the height, as we dealt with in the previous video. So if you look at this box, it looks like a square where there's a height and there's a length. We then say, for square, the length was always equal to the height. L is h, just like this over here. And then we said that was simply S and S. Now, for a rectangle, the length and height are not equal. Otherwise, we would simply call it a square. So if you were given a rectangle where the length and height were equal, and hence the S called S and S, we would just call that a square. It would be silly to call that a rectangle. So for a rectangle, the length is equal not to the height. Remember, that is equal to equal not, or that is called equal not. So we have a rectangle that looks something more like this, where we have a height and we have a length. The height could be longer than the length. It really doesn't matter. Okay, let's look at rectangles now. What is the perimeter of a rectangle? Just to remind you, the perimeter is the total length of all the sides around the square, the rectangle. So the total length of the rectangle is the perimeter. And that P is equal to L plus H. You can see there's an L plus an H, plus another H, plus another L, plus another H, or plus another L plus H, L plus H. As you can see, there's an H here and an L here. Right? And this is the same as two L's and two H's. You can quite easily see there's two heights here and two L's there. That's easy. And then the perimeter is equal to 2L plus H. And that's our perimeter of a rectangle. You'll find that this will also work for a square, but L plus H would just equal the same thing. So what is the area of a rectangle? Let's say we have a rectangle of 4 and 3. Now that is the same as 4 ones and 3 ones, and these are the unit square, where each of these is 1 by 1. Right? So remember, this is a unit square, which is to say it's 1 unit by 1 unit, and the area is 1 unit squared. Okay? So the area is 12 units squared. Why? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 units here. So there's 12 single units. Remember, that's like a single unit squared. This is the same as the area equals the length times the height. And that is equal to 4 times 3. Right? So you can see that 12 is simply the same as 4 times 3, and that's 12 units squared. So the area of a rectangle is simply the length times the height. That's quite easy, it makes sense. Let's look at some examples. A rectangle has one side of 5 meters and one side 2 meters longer. Okay, let's draw and label the rectangle. That's quite easy. We say the one side is 5 meters. We're going to call that the 5 meter side. And the other side is 2 meters longer. 5 plus 2 is 7 meters. And then they must be the exact same. So we have 5 on the side and 7 over there. And that's our rectangle. Calculate the perimeter of the rectangle. Perimeter of a rectangle is equal to 2L plus H. You must always write the formula first before you sub it in. So that's 2, the length is 7, plus the height of 5. It doesn't matter if you switch those around. You can see that 7 plus 5 is equal to 12. So that's 2 times 12. 2 times 12 is 24 units. Oh, we have a unit, so 24 meters. Okay, calculate the area of the rectangle. Area of a rectangle is simply equal to length times height. And that is equal to 5 multiplied by 7. 5 multiplied by 7, do you know your times table? 35 and what? Is that right? Meters squared. 35 meters squared. Okay, let's look at this example with the Cartesian plane and this grid system. It's a coordinate system if you haven't learned about the Cartesian plane yet. Example 2. We have our axes. We have our y and our x. Remember, x is always along the ground. It's like a wheel of a car. It has to go along the ground. And y is up in the air going straight. Careful here. We're now told this is 50. This is 50, 10, 20, 30, 40. This mustn't be 1 anymore. It's now 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up. So these are gaps of 10. We can do that with a Cartesian plane. And there's our rectangle. What is the length of the rectangle size? Okay, we can see that's 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's 40. So the height is 40. And the length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 80. And the length is 80. We can quite easily see that was 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. And that was 10. So the difference is 80. That's quite easy. Have they given us units here? No, they haven't. Calculate the perimeter of the rectangle. The perimeter of a rectangle is equal to 2 height plus length. Don't forget that it's plus over there. So what is the 2 height? Is 2, 40 plus 80. And that is equal to 2 times 120, which is equal to 240 units. And that is our answer. Calculate the area of the rectangle. Remember, area is simply equal to length times height. And that is equal to 40 multiplied by 80. Do you know what 40 multiplied by 80 is? What is 4 multiplied by 8? That's 32. And we're going to have 2 zeros, 3,200 units squared. We've got that. Okay. Let's move on to a last example. A rectangle has a side of 2.3 centimeters and another side 1.5 times longer. 1.5, that's 1.5. Okay, 1.5 times. Draw and label the rectangle. Okay, so we know that the one side is 2.3 centimeters. We know that the other side is 2.3 times 1.5. So let's do that. We might have to do long division here. 2.3 times 15. 5 times 3 is 15. Oh, times 1.5. And we add a 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus another 1 is 11. We add our magic 0. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 2 is 2. We add them together, we get 5, 4, 3, 2 decimals, 3.45. 3.45 centimeters. Okay, calculate the perimeter of the rectangle. Okay, so we know that perimeter is equal to 2 length plus height. What is the length and the height? That's quite easy. We know that's 2.3 plus 3.45. What happens when you add those two together? You're going to get 2 plus. We can see that this is 2.30, remember. 30 plus 45 is equal to 75. So we're going to stay. 2 plus 3 is 5.75. Make sure you understand that. What is now 2 multiplied by 5.75? We can double that. 5 doubled is 10. Plus 0.75 doubled is 1.5. So that is equal to 11.5 centimeters. Well done, grade 8s. What is the area of the rectangle? Area is equal to length times height. So that is equal to 2.3 multiplied by 3.45. You might have to do your long division here, so you're going to go your long multiplication, 3.45 times 2.3. 3 times 5 is 15 and 1. 12 plus 1 is 13 plus 1. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. We add our magic 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Add a 1. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. 2 times 3 is 6. We add these all together. We're going to get 5, 3, 9, 7. There's 3 decimal places. So that is equal to 7.935 units. Sorry, that's not units. That is equal to 7.935 centimeters squared. So that's not right. And that right there is our answer. Well done, grade 8. We've done rectangles. Now we're going to move on to triangles, which starts to get a little bit more interesting.